In this episode of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, we visit with Jimmy Burrow. Yes, that's right. Joe Burrow's dad, who was an outstanding football player, football coach, and obviously father and mentor to the great Joe Burrow. Jimmy Burrow is a proud father. We can all identify with that. All the dads that are watching this episode. How would it be? Can you think of what it would be like to have a son that is playing at the level that Joe Burrow is playing at in the National Football League? Jimmy Burrow, as you would expect, humble, proud, really good man that raised an unbelievable man in his son. I think you're going to like this one. Welcome once again to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, and we are in our outstanding First Star Logistics studios, and our special guest today is extremely special, and he's extremely special to number 9, and when somebody's extremely special to Joe Burrow, he's extremely special to all of us. There's no doubt about it, and that's Joe's dad, Jimmy. Welcome to the show, sir, and we are appreciative of your time because I'm sure you're getting pulled and tugged in every direction possible right now, aren't you?
Well, I'm getting pretty experienced at handling the media, Dave. But it's all fun. We like talking about Joe and the Bengals, and appreciate you having me on here.
Absolutely. So Joe Burrow, man, I'll tell you what, your son is as tough, mentally and physically tough, honestly, as any player. Tim Crumry, in my mind, was the ultimate warrior. Tim Crumry was as mentally and physically tough a football player as I've ever had as a teammate or as seen as an opponent. Joe is right there. Joe Burrow just takes a licking and just never flinches. I mean, and he doesn't get up. He doesn't get up and cuss his teammate out, or I mean, he just goes to the sideline, puts on his headset, gets his computer, and says to the coaches, "Let's move on. Let's get better at this series. What do we got?" Unbelievable. I mean, he is unflappable, doesn't flinch. Where does that come from, Jimmy? He is amazing.
I don't know. Maybe his dad was a defensive coach. His Jamie and Dan were defensive players, and he just kind of grew up, knowing more about how physical it is on that side of the ball. But he always loved defense, and he would tackle and he would hit. They didn't let him play it a whole lot growing up and in high school, but he liked to do it, and tried to get Coach Meyer when he was a backup, not playing. He tried to get Coach Meyer and Kerry Combs to let him go down on kickoff coverage. And,
really?
They wouldn't do it. So, but he went to them and said, "Hey, I'm not playing. Let me contribute on a special team like kickoff coverage." So. But I think he feels like that's a big part of being a leader and part of being the quarterback, showing toughness, not just to your offensive teammates, but also your defensive teammates too.
It's inspirational. I mean, as a former lineman, I look at him and I mean, I've seen Tom Brady sack himself, get hit a few times and kind of flinch and assume the fetal position with the football. And man, Joe's like fearless. He's in there and, manipulating the pocket, trying to make people miss and doing his thing. It is inspirational. And there's no doubt his teammates have responded to it. What's the latest, I guess, from a conversational standpoint, what is Joe Burrow, your outstanding quarterback son, what has he told you about the Cincinnati Bengals in this run through the playoffs? What have conversations been like with Joe?
Well, I mean, we don't have a ton of those. I mean, he doesn't really like getting distracted during the game. We did call him right after the game in the locker room, and he never answers it when we do. So we normally don't. But he actually answered our phone call right after the game. We were continuing a kind of celebration at our tailgate, and he answered, and he would only do that if he was really happy, and he just talked about how tough it was, going against Tennessee. And I usually wait till I think their big preparation day is today, maybe yesterday. And then we let him get through tomorrow, and then we just talk to him for a little bit, usually a couple nights before the game. So, but I know he's excited, and he's doing everything he can to prepare to have a great game.
You mentioned that he grew up amongst defensive people. You were a very accomplished defensive coach, a lot of skins on the wall. You had defensive players that played at a very high level of collegiate football, and then you get yourself a quarterback who plays quarterback like a linebacker. I mean, that linebacker mentality, it's unbelievable. But when you see Joe getting sacked 9 times, and actually it was 11, I mean, they blew the whistle, but nobody heard it, so Joe still got smoked. And then, oh, that play doesn't count. You know, the timeout was called, and then the other one was nullified by a penalty, but he still got hit and sacked. And then he's hit other times as well. When you see Joe getting hit like that, what is it for you? What is it like for you, Jimmy, as a dad and then / defensive coach? You know, what's it like for your wife, Robin? What's Robin think when he's
well, it's the mom and dad part of us kick in, and
Sure.
we get a little nervous, but as a coach, I certainly understand that all sacks aren't one particular person or one particular position group's fault, so does Joe have responsibility in that? Sometimes yes, sometimes the guy gets a beat. Sometimes it's just a scheme that happens. That is tough. So it's a team game, and I know Joe would be the first to say that. But we would prefer less sacks, but he's able to push through it and get on to the next play, and that's a good trait to have as a quarterback.
All the tape that you've consumed and film in the early stages of your career. I mean, when we were playing, it was 16 millimeter reel to reel projector, now it's tape and all that. But do you, as you're now in your retirement years, watching your son play at such a high level, do you get any itches or urges to watch tape as a former coach and say, gee, I wonder what Joe's thinking about when they line up in this defensive configuration? Or are you just now, all right, I'm going to kick back, I'm getting over all that, I've done all that, I'm just going to be a spectator and just enjoy the moment and watch my son?
Yeah, more so that, just being a spectator and watching as Joe's dad. I do like some of the things that are out there on the internet that different people break down Joe's good throws and what they're trying to do to Joe on defense, and the coverages and the way Joe recognizes that, processes that, and chooses the right receiver. I enjoy that from a coaching standpoint, for sure. And so I'll watch quite a few of those during the course of the week. But as far as studying an opponent and that sort of thing, he's got a lot of good coaches over there to do that with him and for him.
So at what age was Joe saying, Dad, on this cover 2, linebacker can't really run in the middle of the field with this tight end, and we can take it. When was he actually, saying things that you're looking at him like, whoa, man, this I got myself a football genius here?
Yeah, I mean, middle school type football. I think when we'd watch some film, I knew he had a pretty good understanding of what he was seeing as far as where to throw the football, and it's limited at that point how many different coverages you're going to see. But then probably his 10th grade year, we'd watch a little film, and again, credit to his high school coaches. They did a great job of preparing him for those looks and teaching him even more. But he just seemed to have a good feel for it for quite a while, starting pretty early.
Joe has got like a very, very high intellect overall. I mean, he is a smart man. There's no doubt about it. He can consume a lot of information. He has like instant recall. I remember Zach and the coaches talking about when at the combine, when they did an interview with Joe, they had 20 plays from his LSU career, and Joe didn't know what plays they were, but as they brought them up, they said he was saying what was going on, why it was going on, when it was installed, how it was installed, why they installed it because of this match. They said the recall that he had about every single play was like a novel. I mean, he had all this information that he's amazing. It's almost like you have a kid in your math class that gets an 800 on his SATs, and he never misses a question on a test, and he never does any homework. He just gets it. I bet when Joe watches tape, he'll understand in a half hour what a lot of other quarterbacks have to look at for like an hour and a half. And man, the coaches are like, I remember the coaches saying he doesn't really even have to take notes. He looks at it. All right, I got it. Unbelievable how much he can consume and retain and draw upon. He has got an unbelievable mind, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has that ability, and who knows how and why, but he can retain information that the coaches talk to him about from past games, and he can draw on that for his experience when he sees those things again. But it's just a trait that he has. I don't know, maybe he got it from his grandfather. My father is James Burrow is 91 years old, and he can recall games when I played in high school about what I did when it was third down or whatever. And I'm going, how do you know that at that age? I don't even know. So maybe he passed that on down to Joe.
Wow. That's truly amazing. Did you catch up with Joe on Sunday morning after the game? How sore was he when he tried to get out of bed after taking those hits down there in Tennessee? It had to be crazy.
We drove back on Sunday from Nashville, and you go to Louisville, and we usually go around Cincinnati and come back to Athens. But we pulled in there. We had a couple things we need to drop off for him, and he was in good spirits and feeling okay, and looking forward to a massage at some point later that afternoon. I think that's a weekly occurrence for him. So he said he was sore, but he had an extra day for sure since they played Saturday. So I'm sure he had already been in that morning for treatment and that sort of thing. So he has a routine, and he pretty much sticks with it regardless of how he feels.
When I was able to go in the locker room, they've gone back to last year's protocols with the COVID issue and not allowed to go in the locker room anymore. But when I was allowed in there, I'd see him from time to time. And one time he's kind of limping a little bit off with his other knee, not the non-surgical knee. Right. He had a little scene. He's kind of like gimping a little bit on that knee. And I'm like, Joe, is everything all right? Yeah, it's all right. He said something's going on there, but it's cool. Everything's good. This guy just, he says, trainers will help me. I'll take little treatment. Everything's fine. It'll get taken care of. And I'll be a son of a gun if 2 days later he's not out there at practice and it's like barely noticeable, the limp. So he is one, again, tough-minded, physically tough. His pain tolerance is way up there, isn't it?
It is. And he's always been able to bounce back pretty quickly from his injuries and his bumps and bruises. I know when he had his surgery last year, and people were saying, he might not even play until the middle of the year, if that. And Joe knew right away that with the amount of time he had and the people supporting him with his rehabilitation, that he would be ready. And a lot of that does have to do with your ability to respond to treatment and to bounce back. And he's always been able to do that.
When you think about it, Jimmy, Joe plays 10 games last year, and then he has the ACL, MCL, tear against the Redskins, and they have to reconstruct the knee, and he comes back so quickly, and he was diligent, with the process of rehabilitation and just the model rehab patient. And Nick Cosgray and everybody did a phenomenal job. But the patient, Joe's the guy that has to do it, and he did it. And I remember there was a stage in training camp we talked about where he was a little claustrophobic, and that's natural. You can understand that after being hit like he was hit and go through what he had to go through. And he fought through that. And to see where he is now, after seeing that little, scenario in training camp that he had to work his way through, it is unbelievable to see him just, playing like nothing ever happened to him physically. It looks, it's remarkable to watch him. You talk about a guy that can compartmentalize and move on. He has just put all that away, hasn't he?
Well, I think I've heard him say, and talking to him, that bye week was huge. He got to the bye week. That gave him another whole week of to kind of get back to rehabbing his knee, and after that week, in his mind, he's done a lot of the things that he was able to do before the injury last year. But I think after the season, and he'll get back to taking a look at his health and his knees, and I would bet that he'll even come back stronger and better than he is now as far as health wise. The first part of the next season for sure.
So, Jimmy, I'm curious if you had an opportunity, what kind of conversations you've had with Jamar Chase, if any, while Joe and Jamar were down there at LSU and here with the Cincinnati Bengals.
I haven't had any conversations with Jamar. I did run into him once at a hotel, and we had a big hug, and then but I talked to his dad at LSU. We would see each other in the stands. We would sit not necessarily right by each other, but maybe 5 rows down or up or whatever. And I would always, we started for some reason, how many touchdowns, and I'd hold up one finger, and we need one today. And Jimmy Chase he'd always want one more. So if I said one, he'd say, we got to have two. And the few times I've run into him during the course of the Bengal games, we kind of do the same thing. Hey, we need 2 from them today. And he doesn't go quite one over like he did at LSU, but it's still kind of fun. It's a great family, and they go to every game. They stop by our tailgate, and they're glad that Joe and Jamar are teammates for sure, just like we all are. And we're glad that they're Bengal fans now.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I don't misquote any of what they did in the regular season game against the Chiefs. Your son goes 30 for 39, a cool 446 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 148. Darn near perfect. And Jamar Chase, and this number kills me. Hill and Kelsey, the 2 primary weapons for the Kansas City Chiefs, they combined for 11 catches for 65 yards. And Kelsey had like a short, low red zone touchdown catch. Jamar Chase had 11 catches himself for 266 yards, 201 more yards than Hill and Kelsey combined for in that game. 3 touchdowns, one of them 72 yards, averaged over 24 yards a catch on 11 catches. When you watched that Chiefs game on January 2nd, when the Bengals beat the Chiefs 34-31, what were you thinking?
Well, that's one of those games where you say, I knew they could compete with really anybody after that game. I mean, to do that against the Chiefs and to contain Mahomes and that group as well as they did. I mean, Lou Anarumo does a great job and had a great plan, but you just knew that they were capable of continuing to go forward and to get to the Super Bowl. And those statistics that you just read, I'm sure, are on the bulletin board there in Kansas City, and they'll have a plan to try to eliminate Jamar's big plays and Joe's downfield throws. And but that's the challenge of playing a team twice for sure, and to playing a team that's as explosive as the Chiefs are on the offensive side of the ball.
You've coached a long time, and before you decided to watch Joe play, and Lou Anarumo, you mentioned the Bengals defensive coordinator. When we mentioned your name to Lou Anarumo earlier in the week, we did a podcast with Lou and talked about that we were going to be catching up with you. A big smile came across his face, and he goes, Jimmy Burrow, good people, known him a long time, super guy. Give us a little background on how you and Lou have become so close.
Well, Tony Samuel, who was a teammate of mine at Nebraska, he eventually became the head coach at New Mexico State, but he was an assistant at Purdue, and Lou was on that staff with him on defense. And Tony kind of knew my philosophy and some of the things I was doing at Ohio University, and it was similar to Lou at the time, a 4-man front, playing some zone in the secondary, a few zone blitzes. So he hooked us up on the phone, and so then for several years we would just bounce some things off of each other, maybe twice every few weeks, or just when something was giving us a problem on defense, and I'd call Lou and say, hey, are you seeing this particular route, or just this particular run blocking scheme, and we'd kind of go through it and help each other out. Then he went to the NFL. We stayed in contact, but we didn't talk as much football then. It's just a lot of things are different, and that Lou didn't have as much time probably when I think it was with the Dolphins. But then when he got he was with the Bengals, and Joe there, we just kind of hooked up again. I text him most after every game, and every now and then he'll just call me instead of texting back. So it's a good relationship, and I really respect him as a defensive coach, and he's really a good guy too. So that's important to me too.
Yeah, there's no question. So when you're watching a game, you're going to watch your son obviously in the offense, but since you have that kind of relationship with Lou, you kind of watch his defense and maybe kind of try to guess along with what he might be thinking, what he might be doing, since you guys have kind of on the same wavelength in terms of defensive philosophy a little bit.
Yeah, that gives me a little break from, Joe. You would think defensive coach, I'm watching defense, but I'm basically watching Joe and the protection, and then watching him throw the ball downfield. But when the defense is out there, I do kind of watch. I haven't, with COVID and everything. I mean, I had planned on going over and spending some time with him after Joe got drafted, but with COVID, I haven't been able to sit in with him and watch tape. So I don't know all the things that he's doing on defense, but I do watch it and try to see if how he's mixing it up with some zone and some man. He's not a big blitz guy usually, but he has blitzes in very opportune times, and that just shows you how good a coach he is. Those blitzes that he does do are very important in the course of a game. But I like watching how if you don't know much about the scheme, you can certainly appreciate as a defensive coach how hard those guys play and how they play as a team and how physical they are. And you can see that if you don't even know what anything about defense, you can say that's a well-coached team when it comes to those things.
What did you think when Zach said, okay, before this game against the Tennessee Titans, I want the captains to speak. I want players to speak to the players. Normally as an assistant coach that he, designates to fire the team up and that sort of thing. Well, he wanted the captains to address the team. And at first Joe was like, I'm not really, I'm in my focus mode. I don't really have that much to say. But then he gets up and he says, this why not us stuff. I don't know about this why not us stuff. It's like we're making ourselves underdogs. I'm tired of the underdog thing. We're in this to make some noise. Let's forget this underdog stuff. So CJ Uzama says, okay, well, because CJ started the why not, CJ said, okay, why not? It is us. So now they're doing the it is us. So you couldn't have been surprised when Joe had that mindset, right? It's like, hey, we're in this to make some noise. We're a football team, man.
He's the least surprised guy of anybody that they're where they are now. He's not a big speech maker and get up and raise his voice or anything like that. I think over the years when I've talked to his coaches, they say he picks his spots, and when he talks, people listen. And I think that was certainly one of them. The only other time that I can think of he really got after the team was at I heard the halftime of the St. Vincent St. Mary's playoff game, when in his mind they were kind of playing the name of the school rather than who was out there, and he just said, hey, we're not playing like we're capable of, and my understanding is he kind of got after the whole team during that halftime, and they had a great second half. But it's just not something that he does a lot of. But as I said, he's capable of doing that, and he's good at it, and has a lot of good things to say when he does choose to do so.
So in your coaching experience, Jimmy, when you beat a team during the regular season in an important game. I mean, it wasn't like the Chiefs were resting people. They were trying to be the number one seed.
Right.
They had won 8 in a row. The Bengals knock them off 34-31, knock them out of the number one seed. So they have to play week 1 just like the Bengals do in the playoffs while Tennessee rests. But then the Bengals do the favor of going to Tennessee and knocking Tennessee out of there with the number one seed. So now the Chiefs get the Bengals in Kansas City, like they were ultimately probably hoping they might have an opportunity that way anyway. And what's your mindset as a former coach when you beat a team during the season and toward the end of the season? I mean, it was January 2nd. It wasn't that long ago where these two teams played. And then you get them again in the playoffs. What are the pros and cons of that, if any?
Well, I think the downside of it is that everybody says it's hard to beat a team, twice at
Right.
really any level.
Yep.
They certainly know our strengths and weaknesses on offense and how they need to do a better job against Jamar and those type things. I mean, if you go, hey, we tried this and there's just no way it worked, and that's something you always do. You got to change, and so they're studying that, and they understand that. But and the same thing with on the Bengals side. But from a positive standpoint, as far as the Bengals, they know they can go toe to toe with them. They're confident that they know their personnel, and we're going to change things up too, just like they are. So I'm not it doesn't scare me a lot when I was a coach to play a team a second time. It's just part of it, and a lot of times you have a better plan the second time, and I maybe sure the Chiefs will, but we will too. So it kind of balances out there.
Yeah, it's going to be it's definitely going to be an interesting football game, no question about it. I mean, when you see that your son is competing against Patrick Mahomes in the Final Four in the AFC Championship game at the quarterback position, that has to be an unbelievable feeling for you.
Well, and Joe would be the first to tell you that he's not playing against Patrick.
Right.
He's playing
Yep.
against their defense, but
Right.
he knows that Patrick has a Super Bowl ring, and that he's considered one of the best, if not the best. Some people probably would put him at the top of the list, but so he looks at it as a challenge, and but again, he knows that they have a win against those guys, and it can be done again, but he certainly respects the great quarterbacks in the NFL, and so there's a lot of respect for Mahomes going into our game a few weeks ago after the game, and certainly knowing that he's got to compete against that team in the championship.
There's a football team that can win many ways is always a dangerous football team. The Bengals shown they can win many ways. And Joe has shown that, okay, well, if you're going to rush 4 and drop 7 into coverage, I'm going to be patient and poised, and I'm not going to force things, and we're going to execute, and I'm going to beat you. If you blitz me, I'm going to tear it apart. I know where I'm going with the football. I'm going to rip you. So, I mean, it's like, wow, what do you do as a defensive coordinator, and how much sleep would you lose trying to scheme a defense against your son?
Yeah, I mean, we have so many weapons on offense, and it's the receivers, tight end, running back, Joe, and so it's a load to try to lock in on what do you do when you cover Jamar and the other guys step up, or they take away some of our passing attack, and you're able to get the ball to Joe Mixon and all those things. So that's what makes a great offense, and I'm sure same thing for Lou and defense, trying to attack all those weapons and prevent those guys from getting off with a big night too. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch how that all plays out.
So let me ask you a big topic of conversation, and rightfully so, obviously, is the crowd noise. I mean, Arrowhead is off the hook. They've got the record for the decibel level, an outdoor stadium, mind you, the decibel level. They stomp their feet. They start playing that, da, na, 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 and the people are just stomping and going crazy and screaming. How big in your experiences as a coach, now you were a defensive coach,
Mm-hmm.
but when you had your home crowd in your favor, and it can pose some problems to a defense as well, because you really can't hear while they're making all that noise, distracting the offense. But how big of a problem can that pose when you're trying to deal with that crowd noise?
Yeah, I mean, it can if you're not prepared for it. I would think the Bengals are going to be prepared for it. Communication is a key. So you got to basically go off a silent count, and everybody has to be on point with that. But people are able to do it. I mean, Buffalo did it last week, and Joe's experience, and maybe the Chiefs will be even louder than anything he's ever participated in with a crowd like that. But Alabama, when we played them, was unbelievable. The president of the United States was there, and they were going crazy, and LSU was able to beat that time. And then we lost that 7 overtime game to A&M, and
Right.
and if you want to hear a crowd in about the 4th and 5th overtime, go to A&M and listen to that thing. But I'm sure that the Chiefs, it'll be unbelievably loud. I know Joe has said those SEC crowds are one of a kind, but he knows the Chiefs is going to be unbelievable too, and he'll have to do a good job with that silent count.
And finally, Jimmy, let me get you out of here on this. Your son has achieved an unbelievable number of what people would look at as serious goals. Is he a big goal setter? Does he set individual goals? Does he set team goals? Is he a goal-oriented guy that is a combination of individual and team goals? What is it about Joe Burrow and his goal setting?
Well, that's I think that's unique in Joe's mindset. That it started in high school. He had one goal, and that was to win a state championship. We got to the state championship, unfortunately lost. And then when he went to college, he had one goal, and that was win a national championship. That's actually why he left Ohio State and chose LSU, and he was able to win a national championship. And when he got drafted by the Bengals, in his mind, the one goal from day one was to win a Super Bowl, and he's getting close. So I mean, there's all kind of little things. The only time I've ever heard him say much was, he thought it was cool that he was going to have a chance to throw for 5,000 yards. But during the course of the season, he never said, well, that's my goal. It just, somebody told him he was close, and he thought that was pretty cool. That's why he was disappointed at Cleveland, maybe not to play in that game. But that's every now and then he brings something like that up. But as far as during the first part of the season, no. I mean, he had a goal after the injury was to start that first game, and so he wanted to do that. He worked hard with a lot of great help from support staff, and he got that done. But he wants to win a Super Bowl now.
And the thing about him is, boy, he's about the moment. He is in the moment. And the one thing you have to do, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be able to make it to the Super Bowl. We didn't win it, but getting there was a heck of a process, and you still have to enjoy it. And it seems like even as laser focused as Joe is, and he is very, very, his expression never changes on his face, but you can tell with his body language, the hop in his step, the pep in his step, he's really enjoying it. And that's a key, because you never know. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, how things are going to turn out, how many times you're going to get there. And if things go right, be there a bunch of times with Joe, but you got to enjoy it, man.
Well, he loves his teammates there in Cincinnati. That's he's commented to me on this, and I've heard Zach comment on it. It's a great locker room. It's a great culture, and Joe has fun with those guys in meetings, on practice, and certainly the more you win, the more fun it is, and he knows when it's time to go to work. But just being around his teammates is big to Joe, and he really enjoys that. Team sports are great in that regard if you got a good group, and the Bengals have a great group.
Well, we're both parents, Jimmy. We're both dads, And I want to congratulate you and your wife, Robin, on raising not only an incredible quarterback and athlete, but an unbelievable man. I mean, Joe Burrow is special with a capital S in every sense of the word. And you guys must be proud, and deservedly so. It is an earned proud, just like the earned confidence that Joe has. It is an earned proud, and congratulations to you guys as well.
Well, thank you. We're certainly proud of Joe. His mom took him to practices all those years when he was growing up in all kind of sports. When I was still over there at the football office breaking down film, so she certainly deserves the majority of that credit because he was with her a heck of a lot more than me. But we're proud the way he turned out on and off the field, and we're proud that he's with the Cincinnati Bengals too.
All right, Jimmy, let's go get it done. Get that AFC Championship game done in Kansas City and head to California for a little Super Bowl action, man.
Yes, the weather will be much better than what I'm experiencing here today, for sure. So let's make that happen.
That dog can hunt all day, every day. I hear that.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Hooday.
Hooday.
At First Star Logistics, we're a very strict company that really puts the pressure on our employees. Brakes? What are those?
That's what I'm talking about, Icky. Get the body right, then the mind's right.
You know, gotta get that body right.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Become a star with a chance to earn the highest commission percentages in the industry as a freight broker agent. Check out firststarlogistics.com.